I was just curious with the learning process of coming in from high school and getting acclimated to a new scheme and system. If you could just walk me through kind of what do you feel like was the most difficult part of picking up the new terminology and everything like that?
I would say it wasn't too much of a big difference. So was my offensive coordinator in high school. So growing up, I've always had ball in my life. And so when Coach Longo started recruiting me, he would install his plays and my playbook sometimes. And so I would already have him picked up. It's just that I would say the biggest aspect of me learning the offense was the language that Longo used, because I was like all into the language my dad used, and then because it was basically the same plays, but coming here he uses his terminology, and I say that was probably the biggest aspect that I needed to learn. And so I feel like I've been doing a really good job on that the past year, and so there's just more.
And just to clarify, you were saying that your dad put in some of the plays that Longo had in Carolina's playbook.
Yeah, we would so when he would come up, they'll just talk ball with my dad. I'm just like, every Monday after a game, every Monday that next day he'll install a new play. And I'm like, what's this play for? Like, why are we installing so many plays? Because I know we're not gonna run them on Friday night. He was just like, oh, just don't worry about it, just practice it. And so as I got here, I was like, oh, these are the plays I learned in high school, but we never ran them. And so yes, sir.
Okay, over to Ross Martin.
Hey, Jacolby, it's no secret that you're competing with Drake May for the backup quarterback position. I was wondering if you could just kind of talk about how that competition is going in spring, your relationship with Drake and kind of what that looks like inside practice as y'all compete.
I'd say it's going really well right now. I mean, we're both competing hard, at the quarterback position. No, everyone wants to be the backup because you got Sam Howell. He's obviously a starter. So, and then at the end of the day, it's like a big question mark on who's the backup. So me, Drake, and Jeff, we're all just competing for that next spot, that backup spot, because we know after he leaves, that person will probably be the next guy up for the upcoming season. But Drake's a very hard worker. He pushes me every day, and we're basically in the same spot because I didn't have a spring ball last year, and so he's just now getting it. But last year during the season, the fall, I had to rush through the plays. I had to pick up as much knowledge as I could just to compete, and I was ready to compete because that's just who I am. Like, I'm not going to settle for less. But me and Drake, we're just competing hard, and we're just going to keep going at it until the fall, until they name someone.
How are you approaching it? Like mentally, how do you kind of approach competing for a backup quarterback position?
I'd say I'm just competing it day by day. I mean, I'm not rushing anything. I mean, I know I'm a smart guy, and Longo's, he's helping the both of us. I come in about every single day, learn something new. If not, go back over something that I already know just to see if there's anything that I'm missing. But overall, I mean, I'm just taking it day by day and just being who I am because I know what type of football player I am.
Thank you.
Dina King, go ahead.
Hey, Jacolby, what is it like having Sam Howell, one of the top quarterbacks in the country? How's him being there, being a mentor for you? What kind of pointers is he giving to you?
So with Sam, Sam's all around a great guy. I mean, just having him as a quarterback, the type of quarterback he is, a Heisman candidate, like, you want to soak up as much as possible that you can before he leaves, because you don't have much time with Sam Howell. And so I would just say it's just knowing that I have that caliber guy here with me and him doing the things he's doing right now. Why not? Why don't you want to follow in his footsteps or even do more? And so, I mean, he's helping both of us, me and Drake. He's helped out, teaching us everything he knows. And so, I mean, we're both just soaking it all up. I mean, it's unreal to have a quarterback here, but I mean, it's just Sam Howell,
Okay, Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Jacolby, you enrolled in January, and then, of course, COVID hits. And so a lot of those plans for the spring development were kind of thrown off kilter. Can you just kind of walk us through that challenge of not having the spring ball last year and kind of how you approached trying to improve as a quarterback during that weird offseason?
It was really tough because coming in, like COVID wasn't a thing. So I'm thinking like, I'm just gonna come in, prepare as much as possible, hopefully win the backup job. But then when COVID hit, that's when like question marks started to come, like what's happening now? Like, where am I? But then I just sat down, talked to my dad. He's like, you can't control what's happening in the world right now. All you can do is control what you're doing outside of it. And so with me and Longo, we would Zoom, we'd go over all the plays. I'll go down to Georgia with some of the guys like John Copenhaver, Bo Corrales. He was there sometimes. And like, we'll just throw just because, I mean, he had a quarterback there that was on the team and I had receivers and we all wanted to get better just because we're in quarantine. We had nothing to do. And so, but it was a hard transition just because of the fact that not having spring ball and having to learn as much as I did last year. I mean, it was a challenge, but I mean, I was up for it just because I was prepared. And so, but it was definitely a challenge.
Do you feel like because of your dad's background and your relationship with him as son and coach, that you didn't really suffer during that time period, as challenging as it may have been, that you actually kind of were able to work around it to the best of your ability?
I mean, it was still challenging because coming in, I didn't know all the plays. And so there was times where me and him would Zoom and I would go over the plays. And the next thing you know, there's something new. And as a young quarterback, there's something new and you don't go over it over and over and over. It kind of fades away. And so as the time came, it kind of faded away just because we had to rush through everything just because we didn't have spring ball. And so I would say, but my dad, he was a big part of that. He helped me out through it. Longo did. And some of the Sam did most definitely. And some of the older receivers, they helped me out. So, I mean, I was happy to have them there, but it was a learning curve for me for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, over to Jacob Turner.
Hey, Jacolby, you just mentioned the younger receivers. Can you is there any guys that have maybe stood out to you in that group that are younger, maybe didn't get a ton of playing time last season, that are kind of stepping up in the spring right now?
I would say Landon, not Landon, I would say Steven Gosnell. He's really picking it up. I think he's playing more outside now. So, I mean, I'm really excited for that because of his size and his speed, as well as Steven. I'd say John Copenhaver is doing really well. He's becoming more of it was a big question mark. He's becoming more of a blocker tight end because we never knew like if he had the physical aspect of it, but now he's really showing it. So he's definitely a guy to watch. And most of our younger linemen are doing really well. Jonathan Adorno, Caden Baker, they're all doing really well. And as you know, Tony Grimes, he's I don't have to say much about him.
Quick follow-up. Can you walk us through your kind of off-season grind and things you were working on in between, the Orange Bowl and obviously the start of spring practice?
I would say it was more for me. I mean, I'm more for physical wise. I would say I'm more of a thicker quarterback. So I was just trying to gain less because in high school, like I was trying to lose more fat, gain more muscle. And so I feel like I've done that. But overall, I would just say making sure my arm was capable. I mean, I'm a very accurate quarterback, but just making sure I don't lose making sure I'm doing arm work every single day just because I don't lose anything, because most quarterbacks, you can be sloppy not doing anything, and then you come in and throw and you're not the same anymore. And so with me, I was just working every day, making sure I had everything I had. And so, I mean, it was just basically quarterback stuff. I would go out and train with my QB coach, Clint Sterner. And so that was pretty big for me, and plus with Longo. So, I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but it was basically everything a quarterback would do as in training.
All right, last one, a quick follow-up from Ross Martin. Go ahead, Ross.
Hey, Jacolby, I was wondering what is the toughest thing about Phil Longo's offense to learn or to execute, and what is the easiest thing for you to learn and execute when you got on campus and last year and this year for that matter?
I would say the hardest thing was basically the terminology, because I would have the plays down, but it's just that the fact that when I'm talking to someone and having to explain it, I would use like my dad's terminology and he would blow up about that. But overall, I'd say one of the other toughest thing was it's really not, his offense really isn't tough once you study it. Like it's really just basic X's and O's, except he goes beyond that. And so me being with my dad and my dad being basically the same offense he runs, it's really not that different because we had the same reads. But it's just more of I don't know how to explain his offense. It's really different. But I would say it's easy, but at times it has its hard parts.